welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be another episode of the Championship Roundup, and in this video here today, guys, we've got a lot of action to go ahead and discuss over this weekend, guys. We had a lot going on in the Championship this weekend and quite a bit of drama to go ahead and take up. So as always, guys, I'll be very interested to know as to what you make of your team's performance this weekend. Make sure you do leave a comment in the comments down below, and then we can have a bit of a discussion about what you thought of your club this weekend. Were you happy with how they played, or are you a little bit worried now? We are getting into the business end of this season. And if you do go on to enjoy the video, guys, make sure you leave a like and make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. It is always massively appreciated. And just before we do get into any of this weekend's games, guys, I will include your comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct this weekend, I will include your comment on screen now. And fair play to everyone who did get a score prediction correct, because we had quite a few tough games in there this weekend to go ahead and predict. You know, we had a couple of low scoring games and a couple of really high scoring games where there wasn't really too much in the middle. I managed to get one of my score predictions correct this weekend. That was the Millwall against Preston game, which did finish 1-1 in the end. But without further ado, guys, let's jump into some of these games. So we of course have to start out with the Friday night game. That was the Steel City derby going on between Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday. And I'm not going to lie, in the end, it was a little bit disappointing. It did finish as a 0-0 draw. And I'd probably say that Sheffield Wednesday probably would have been a bit happier with the 0-0 draw, you know, considering the injury list that they've currently got piled up. A 0-0 would probably suit them a little bit better. In the first half of this game, there wasn't really all too much action. You know, there was a half chance here and there, but in terms of working the keepers, not much was going on. Into the second half, the tempo of the game did seem to step up a little bit. You know, Joe Wildsmith in net for Sheffield Wednesday. What a save he made in the second half. It was a looping header from Clayton Donaldson. I thought he was destined to go into the back of the net, but somehow he managed to overextend one of his arms and then get a tip on it and hand it over the crossbar. And that was a great save from him. And Sheffield Wednesday fans, how good has Joe Wildsmith been for you so far since he has stepped into the first team in the absence of Westwood? In my opinion, from what I've seen of him, he's done a really good job. But Sheffield United, of course, they had to step up the tempo in the second half, especially after Louvens got sent off in the 64th minute. That then left Sheffield Wednesday a little bit short at the back. You know, they needed to become more resilient, and off the ball, I can see the Sheffield Wednesday side working harder than they have been doing in previous weeks, and so it was a credit to them that they did manage to get the clean sheet in the end, something they've not done too much of so far this season. And right at the end, they could have gone ahead and won it. Adam Reach had a driving effort towards the goal, but in the end, Moore made a fantastic save for Sheffield United, and so in the end it did finish as a 0-0. What do you guys make of this one? Then we will move on into the Saturday games, the first of which being Cardiff City, who managed to go ahead and put 4 past this Sunderland side. Now, of course, going into this game, Cardiff really weren't on a great run of form. You know, they'd lost their previous 4 games going into this one, so this was crucial, really, that they went ahead and got back to winning ways. The first half of this game, not really much was happening. It finished 0-0 after the first half, but in the second half, that's when Cardiff really started to up the ante, and only 40 seconds into that second half, Callum Patterson managed to put them ahead with a nice goal from him. He then went on to get another goal in this one, but one of the big talking points from this match was Ndong, who did get sent off early on into the second half. Was it a red card? In my opinion, I thought it was a little bit harsh, really. It was definitely a yellow card, but was it a red? I'm not so sure. Cardiff and Sunderland fans, what did you think of that one? But after that, Sunderland at the back, oh my word, they were bad. So passive defensively, you know, no one was looking to take leadership in that back line, and Cardiff were just picking them apart. You know, you got that feeling that, I mean, they got 4 goals in the end, but you had that impression that in the second half especially, Cardiff had an extra gear to go into. You know, some of the defending, especially for the 4th goal, was absolutely shambolic. You know, no way Pilkington should be able to have that much space inside the box. It was absolutely criminal from Sunderland, but fair play to Cardiff, and more than deserved victory for them. Then the next game saw Barnsley go ahead and hold Wolves to a 0-0 draw, and what turns out to be a pretty good result for Barnsley, really. You know, with Wolves running rampant at the top of the Championship, a 0-0 draw for Barnsley may not be a bad result for them. Chances in this one, there weren't really too many clear-cut chances where either keeper was really tested for this one, you know. Barnsley were looking pretty resilient defensively off the ball. I thought they were working excellent in this one to limit Wolves to as few chances as possible. And credit to Barnsley, you know, they went ahead and stuck to their game plan throughout that entire match, and in the end it has paid off as they did get a point from this one. And so Barnsley's defending recently really has improved, you know. It wasn't too long ago since they were making so many individual errors at the back that were ultimately costing them so many points, but in recent weeks they've seemingly shored up at the back, and it's a credit to them for doing that. The best chance of the game probably fell to Diego Jota at the back post. The ball came into him. It seemed to have eluded Adam Davis in net for Barnsley, but in the end he just fired over the crossbar as he seemed to be a little bit off balance. But in the end, a decent point for Barnsley. Not the best from Wolves, but you could see they were a bit frustrated with how Barnsley were playing. Now the next game saw Derby County go ahead and put 3 past Birmingham City. So of course it was Gary Rowett returning to Birmingham in this one, and in the end he did manage to see the 3-0 victory for Derby. And Derby in this one were really looking excellent, going forward on the counter-attack. Some of the speed that they can actually break with now is quite frightening. And the first goal in this game came from Johnny Russell, and then they managed to wrap it up with goals from Vidra and Vyman in the second half. And once again, similar to Cardiff actually, I felt like Derby probably had another gear to click up to in this game. Birmingham on the other hand, I didn't think they played awful in this one. You know, some of their transitioning play going from defence to attack wasn't actually that bad, I didn't think, in this one. It was just when it came to that final product, they didn't have much about them in this one. You know, Sam Gallagher had a couple half chances, but apart from that, Scott Carson was never really tested in this game. So Derby County, of course, still sat second in the Championship. What an unbelievable run they're on at the moment. Now, the next game saw Brentford go ahead and beat Bolton Wanderers by 2-0 in what was a fairly comfortable home performance from Brentford. I didn't think they were the deserved winners in this one. It was Josephine who put them in front just before the half-time break with a nice finish from him, and then they did wrap it up with a goal late on. But overall, Brentford had a couple of chances to make it more than 2-0. You know, Sawyers had a decent chance, Ollie Watkins had a decent half chance which just went wide, and they had a couple of other ones here and there. I thought that Bolton, they did have a few opportunities, you know, especially from set pieces. This Bolton side is always going to go ahead and be a threat, you know, with the threat of Gary Medine going forward especially. He had a few chances in this one, but overall they were quite half chances really. They never really created too much that was clear cut and that really tested Brentford in the end. But this result for Brentford now only leaves them 3 points off the playoffs, and this is what I just love about the Championship. The Brentford are currently sat in 11th place in the Championship, but even so, only 3 points off the playoffs is definitely still a possibility for them. And considering the awful start that Brentford got to the season, it's only a credit to them for doing so. Now, next game saw Norwich go ahead and beat Bristol City by 1-0 thanks to a goal from James Maddison. And of course, Norwich have recently lost Alex Pritchard. He completed his move to Huddersfield Town the other day, but nevertheless, and let's be real, it was James Maddison who was always going to be the cog in this team, which really makes Norwich tick. But I do think that Norwich have a lot to thank their back five for in this game. Daniel Farke seemed to switch the formation in this one for Norwich, playing a back three really with 2 wing backs, but that really did suit them in this one, you know. They managed to limit that Bristol City attack to quite really few chances actually, and then when Angus Gunn was required, he made some decent saves for them. Bristol City at the moment on a really frustrating run of form actually. I believe they're now winless in their last 5 games in all competitions. So Bristol City fans, what do you attribute that poor form you're currently going under down to at the moment? As of course, it wasn't too long ago since Bristol City were sat second in the Championship. They now have dropped down to 5th place. So Bristol City fans, what do you think you're currently missing at the moment? In my opinion, I think they're sort of lacking that option to go ahead and change it up going forward. You know, they've got a couple of injuries to some of their strikers at the moment. You know, Jeju's been out injured for quite a bit now. I think a player like him could have been useful in a game like this against a side like Norwich, who tend to sit quite deep with that back five. But Norwich, on the other hand, a fantastic win for them, and fair play to them. The next game was then between Burton Albion and Queen's Park Rangers, where it was QPR in the end who managed to go ahead and pick up a 3-1 away victory. And in my opinion, it was a deserved victory for QPR. I thought they were excellent in this one. And Burton Albion, I was slightly disappointed in this one really. I thought they'd compete a little bit more than they were doing, especially going forward. You know, looking over some of the results which Burton had picked up in their previous 3 or 4 games, I thought they'd really try and go for this one and go for getting the 3 points in this one. one. That wasn't really to be the case, and QPR did control the tempo of the game for most of it, really, you know. QPR went ahead and took the lead in this one, and then Kieran Dyer pretty much straight away got Burton back into it at half-time. But in the second half, QPR seemed to turn the screw a little bit, and then second half goals from Connor Washington and Massimo Luongo managed to wrap it up for QPR. Luongo especially, I thought, had an excellent game in this one for QPR, you know. That QPR midfield, I really am a fan of, you know. Scowen sitting in deep, then Freeman and Luongo playing that more creative role going forward can really do some damage this year in the Championship. And fair play to QPR, it was a good victory for them. Now, the next game did see Hull City go up against Reading, and this one in the end did finish as a 0-0 draw. And that 0-0 draw really doesn't do too many favours for either side in this one, really, you know. Both of them on a really bad run of form at the moment, and probably could have done with the 3 points in this one. The best chances of this game, probably for both teams actually, both fell from set pieces, either from corners being taken or free kicks in and around the box. Hull also had a disallowed goal in this one for kicking the ball out of Vito Minone's hands. And talking over some of the keepers, actually, I thought that in fairness to them, you know, Alan McGregor and Vito Minone did make some decent saves in this one, but I believe now Hull have failed to score in 5 of their last 6 Championship games under Nigel Atkins. And I don't know how this happened, really, because of course Hull earlier on in the season, they were great going forward, they just couldn't defend. Now Nigel Atkins has come in, that's completely flipped on its head. So Hull fans, what's going wrong for you at the moment? And same for Reading, really. Neither are on a great run of form at the moment. Now, the next game saw Ipswich Town go ahead and pick up a 1-0 home victory against Leeds United. And of course, one of the big talking points from this game was the red card for Ewan O'Kane. I'd be interested to hear from fans of both sides, really, both Ipswich and Leeds, what you thought of this one. In my opinion, I mean, it was just such a needless red card, really. It was a red card for a headbutt in the end, and in my opinion, from looking at some of the replays, it was deserved, really. I don't know why he's done it. It was so needless, and really that did put Leeds on the back foot for the entirety of the rest of the game, you know. It was a red card in the 37th minute, so he really didn't hand any favours to any of his teammates. But in the end, it did take something pretty special from Ipswich to go ahead and break Leeds down, you know. Before that, they were defending pretty well. Ipswich had a couple of half chances, but they weren't really getting in at Leeds like I thought they would. But then Burton Albion popped up with an absolute worldie. He managed to go past 2 or 3 players and then absolutely thunder it into the back of the net, bending into the top corner. It was a terrific finish, and he's been excellent so far. He has scored some great goals for Ipswich, but Leeds, I thought, would have been very disappointed. Of course, this is the first game now that they're without Saiss, and they looked a little bit limp going forward. So they're now without Saiss for a further 5 games as well. Leeds fans, are you a little bit worried? The next game saw Fulham go ahead and pick up a 1-0 away victory at Middlesbrough, thanks to a 95th minute winner from Ollie Norwood in this one. Middlesbrough, I thought, would have been very disappointed after this one. You know, they had some pretty massive chances in this one. In the first half especially, I'm still not sure how Middlesbrough didn't score. Rudy Gestede especially, he had 2 one-on-one chances in this game, which he failed to convert either of them. He also had a header as well, and Middlesbrough, you know, they were creating chances in this one. They just couldn't find that clinical edge to go ahead and take the lead. Fulham, on the other hand, it was probably one of Fulham's worst performances from this little unbeaten run that they're currently on over the past few weeks, as I didn't think they were brilliant in this one, you know. Going forward, they weren't really playing with that same breakneck speed that we expect Fulham to play out. But in fairness to them, you know, they managed to hold on and stay resilient at the back, keep this Middlesbrough side out, and then in the 95th minute, it was Ollie Norwood who stepped up and scored the penalty. And this now leaves Fulham only 1 point outside the playoffs. That is mental, as it wasn't too long ago since Fulham was sat around 16th in the Championship. So in fairness to Fulham, this just goes to show that any team in the Championship, if you're capable of putting on a decent run of form, anything's still possible this year. Our next game was then between Millwall and my club Preston North End, and in the end this one did finish as a 1-1 draw. So looking back on this one, it may not actually be a bad result for Preston, you know. Millwall, a very tough place to go to so far this season, and at the Den, Millwall have actually taken points off some pretty big sides so far this season. In the first half of this one, Preston weren't really playing at our best, you know, considering some of the goals we've been scoring lately. Going forward, we didn't look the best going forward in this one, you know. Jordan Hugill wasn't really too involved in this one. Foden wasn't having the effect that we'd have liked him to, and we had a lot of the ball in the first half, but we weren't that penetrating with it. And in the end, Millwall managed to punish us with O'Brien taking them ahead after 43 minutes. A little bit of slack defending from Preston that one. You know, we were actually playing Alan Brown, who's been playing as an attacking midfielder this season, at right back in this game for some of the injuries we've got. But in the second half, I thought that Preston did show an improvement. Of course, we got back into a game with the goal from Callum Robinson, a brilliant delivery from Greg Cunningham, and that just shows how much we've actually gone ahead and missed him so far this season. But in the end, it did finish as 1-1. I'd probably say it was a fair result given the flow of the game. Then our final game to go ahead and talk over was Aitor Karanka's first game in charge for Nottingham Forest, and this one actually saw Villa go ahead and pick up a 1-0 away victory thanks to a goal from Scott Hogan. But the star for Aston Villa in this one had to be Robert Snodgrass. Some of the deliveries that he was putting into the box in this one were absolutely outrageous. You know, he got the assist for the first goal for Scott Hogan, but even after that, he was causing that Nottingham Forest defence all sorts of problems. You know, it wasn't too long after when John Terry hit the crossbar thanks to a delivery from Robert Snodgrass, and into the second half as well, he was still causing all sorts of problems. You know, Forest, I thought, would have been a little bit disappointed with this one. You know, they managed to keep Villa at bay to only scoring 1 goal despite some of the other good chances that they created in the end. But Forest themselves not looking the best going forward, I didn't think, compared to how they have been playing at some points in time this season. You know, there's still potential with that Forest squad, but I'm just not so sure. Karanka's got his work cut out, I think. You know, Kieran Dowell forced Sam Johnson into a few saves, but apart from that, Forest not the best. So guys, there you have it. That will wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So what do you make of your team's performance this weekend, guys? Let me know down below. So in terms of my goal of the weekend, I mean, I'm going to have to give it to Ipswich Town's Burton Albion. What a goal he scored against Leeds United. That gets my goal of the weekend. And then in terms of my result of the weekend, there are a few contenders for this one. I'm interested to see what you guys vote for. But for me personally, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Cardiff City for getting that 4-0 victory over Sunderland. You know, in the grand scheme of things, that could be a massive result for Cardiff as they were coming off the back of successive defeats. So that could be a big game in Cardiff getting their season back on track. So guys, like I said, that will now wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So if you did go on to enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. And make sure you guys do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.